Hi, I'm Roy Colin, and I'm the creator of the podcast. You can find everything about me and the 5 podcasts on bio.link/podcaster, and you'll find it in the QR code there. I'd also like to thank my sponsors. If you or someone you know is struggling with anxiety and want to know how to be 100% anxiety free in 6 weeks without therapy or drugs, Daniel Packard Anxiety Solution Program Company offers a 6 weeks system that permanently solves anxiety at an astounding 90% success rate. People who join the program only pay at the end once they have clear, measurable results. If you're interested in learning more, go to permanentanxietysolutions.com, where you can book a free consultation with Daniel. Do you have high blood pressure and want to get off the meds? Doctors are amazed at what Zona Plus can do. Get a $50 discount with my code ROY. Go to zona.com/discount/ROY, and you see the QR code for all my sponsors down at the end. Quality Polish manufacturer of metal products for telecommunication and workshop equipment and other metals. If you'd like a brochure, you see it in the QR code, and you just let us know if you would like a quotation shipped internationally and very competitive rates. I hope you enjoy this week's podcast.
Welcome to the Meditation Podcast. You can find all our episodes on meditationpodcast.org. We're also on BitChute and YouTube. You find the links in the podcast description. I'm also a podcasting coach. I've got 4 other podcasts. You'll find everything on bio.link/podcaster. My guest today, Functional Diagnostic Nutrition Practitioner. Please welcome, with a beautiful name, Falyn Morningstar.
Thank you so much for having me, Roy. It's a pleasure to be here.
So you might let the listeners know a little bit more about yourself.
Absolutely. So functional diagnostic nutrition is certainly a title or a label I put on what I do. However, it's much deeper than that. I am a very curious and driven, health-minded woman, and I actually got into functional health from my own personal journey, as typically a lot of us do. I was going through some physical health symptoms about 4 or 5 years ago, and I could no longer ignore any of them, as in I was having irregular menstrual cycle, I was having bloating, emotional eating, poor sleep, and just chronic fatigue. And I sought help from my family physician, from my gynecologist, because I didn't have education or language around what functional health was even at the time. And unfortunately, I didn't get the help that I needed to resolve any of these symptoms. And thankfully, I had a friend that was involved already in Functional Diagnostic Nutrition, the company. And I went through testing. I did a food sensitivity test, a hormone test, a stool test, and that was a very clear roadmap for me to be able to change my lifestyle as well as implement natural supplements to help heal myself. And throughout time, probably 6 months down the road, I loved the results I was experiencing, and I loved the information. And that made me move forward with even getting the certification in the same company myself. So over the course of that following year, I worked to get the certification because I knew that it is very powerful for others to work with as well.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward a couple years, I've added on not only because the certification is very physical focused, but I know that the emotional body and trauma and just these emotions or this mental state that comes up in all of us is huge and very much needs to be an integrative part into our physical health. So I would say over the last 2 years, I've really delved into how we can regulate our nervous system, how we can be able to build better coping mechanisms that we may have not been taught in childhood. I incorporate sound and somatic exercises to really bring the body back together into this harmonizing state, into feeling more vital. I know that focusing on one part of the body is not healing. And unfortunately, in our medical system, it is very much one route focused. mental health focused, gut focused, bone focused, and it's not the right approach if you want to optimize your health. So that, in a whole roundabout way, is a little bit about my curiosity to be able to expand my own consciousness and my own health, but also expand other people's as well, because I think in this collective, all we have to do is heal ourselves, heal others, and we're just going to rise together. So that is really a large endeavor that I am going about.
Brilliant, brilliant. So, like, you mentioned the contraceptive pill, because it's something that I've been conscious of for years, because I remember even when I was younger, they were putting girls that had acne on the pill, and a neighbor, next to a neighbor, she nearly died. She got a blood clot from it. And I know there's a load of side effects, and people aren't aware of that. And plus, unfortunately, the medical industry, with all the kickbacks and everything, they want a patient for life. So they're happy to prescribe these things. And as you said, when you go back, they don't really want to know when there's something going wrong.
I know. It is so unfortunate. And it's like that's what they're taught. Because I know people going into the health field, their intention is probably good. They want to help people. But unfortunately, the medical system, it's a system, and insurance is also a system. It's not about healthcare, it's more sick care. And I think when we have something that happens to us, it's like we're forced to figure it out. But why can't we take a more proactive approach? And going back to your statement with the pill, I started that when I was 16 years old, all the way up to 26. 10 years of taking a little tiny pill every single day that's making me mineral deficient, that's disconnecting my mind with my ovaries, that's giving me fortified iron. The list goes on of the side effects that we're not told when we're potentially deciding if this pill is right for us. And we take it for other things that is not just pregnancy, like you just said, taking it for acne, taking it for maybe weight management or emotional support or PCOS or whatever, the list goes on. And I think society is all about like, yeah, I'll just take this pill and all my problems will be gone. And it just makes this cycle worse down the road, because at 26, not only was I experiencing blood clots when my quote period would come around, which is essentially a withdrawal bleed, I noticed that that was not normal. I shouldn't be having like clotty period symptoms. And I noticed just a whole host, like more hair loss than usual, some body odor experience like I've never had. So it's just like these compounding symptoms where I was like, I need to change something here. And that opened this whole Pandora's box of, wow, there's a lot of things that I can do to support myself.
And like with not just the pill, but heart medicine, cholesterol and everything. I mean, I've seen it, and I've seen the trickery that they use, because even talking to a top consultant, because they tried to get me on that years ago, and I was like, oh, wait. And she said, they shouldn't just do the test once. They're supposed to do it a few times and check what's going on and everything. And that's not how it's done. It's all like, yeah, let's get them through. You're another patient. So what you're doing, I mean, it's something that I've always kind of practiced. It's like, I look at it as being, in Ireland, it's called the NCT. In a lot of the motor vehicle test, everybody, whether it's every year you have to do it or every 2 years, they bring the car and they make sure everything is functioning properly. But they never do that for themselves. And it's like the fact that you kind of mentioned, you do the different tests. It's so important. And that basically you eliminate something straight away, or you say, okay, I have a deficiency in something. So you might kind of delve into a bit of the testing and how it's actually helped people.
Yeah. So I will say any test that you can do is going to be beneficial. I did a basic blood panel when I went to my family physician, and it was useful. However, it didn't solve any problems for me because it's much deeper. And typically the tests that are offered by practitioners like myself are not offered by family physicians or those in the Western medical field. And the reason is they're not covered by insurance. So that's sometimes a huge thing for people to evaluate, because Yeah, most of the time it is an out-of-pocket cost because this is an optimization of your health. This is a transformation. We are not maintaining your current symptoms or trying to put a Band-Aid on it like maybe the pill does, or the cholesterol pill, or the high blood pressure. So these tests I'll just go over 3 of them briefly. There's hundreds of them that we have access to, but we do focus on 5 foundational, but I'll just cover 3 right now. Food sensitivity test. We are looking at your blood. If you've ever had questions of like, what should I eat? Should I do carnivore, keto, vegetarian, blah, blah, blah. Food sensitivity test can tell you with 94% accuracy what foods that your immune system and your body can handle right now and which ones you should remove for at least 90 days. So it is looking at your blood under a microscope. Your immune cells are being interacted with 176 different foods and substances. So proteins, fruits, vegetables, grains, dairy, seafood, the legumes, and flavor enhancers even, and miscellaneous items that you might come in contact with, certain chemicals if you eat processed or packaged foods, showing you in the green what you are able to process, what your immune system doesn't react to. It shows you in the yellow what your system is a little bit reacting to that you should pay attention to. And then in the red, it's majorly reactive. You're having this inflammatory reaction to these foods and substances. So this result and this report is a very visual representation of your grocery list, basically, for the next 90 days. So very valuable to have. The next one is a hormone test. As we know, hormones, they're not the root cause of our symptoms, but they are very large contributors to how we feel. So we're looking at your cortisol pattern. Is it dysregulated? Do you feel like you need that caffeine in the afternoon to give you an extra oomph? We're looking at your testosterone, your estrogen, your DHT, your progesterone. It tells us a good picture of where you're starting.
What's DHT?
It's like a metabolite of testosterone.
Okay.
So a lot of the hormones that we have come from cholesterol. So you might be thinking, well, if I have high cholesterol and my hormones are low, what does that mean? So it's a good representation of, and it's a saliva sample. So it's a representation of what's bioavailable in your system right now. And bioavailable basically means what is your system functioning at? It's how, what the real number of your hormones are. So it's an accurate representation of your current state of your hormones. So that's valuable to us to say, if your melatonin, which is our sleep hormone, if that is low, it's very much correlating to your poor sleep or not feeling rested when you wake up. So how can we work to improve that naturally by addressing our sleep hygiene? So it's a great way to clinically correlate your symptoms with the test. Us as practitioners, we are not just treating the test, we're treating you, and we're not necessarily treating you, we're supporting you and your body in its current state. And the third test is called a GI map. It's a stool test that looks at if you have fungus, yeast, worms, overgrowth of bacteria, parasites. There's an immune health marker. There's also an immune marker on the hormone test. And this is essential to know what state your immune system is in. Is it in a higher range that your system is actively fighting something to come down, to bring down your inflammation? Or is it very low, meaning maybe over the course of your life or a large period of time that your immune system has been overactivating, trying to compensate for something going on in your system, and now it's super low, like it cannot keep up. So you might have more parasites or more overgrowth of bacteria when your immune system is tanked because your door is wide open for these guys to come in. So these 3 tests are just an example of how it can help build a roadmap to build a protocol that your practitioner helps you with to be able to heal. And it's not just the test. it is a whole lifestyle shift. And it does start with one step at a time, but it's a massive lifestyle shift. And it's really beautiful to see more of the truth of what health actually means.
And I think that's kind of very important as well, not to get overwhelmed, because sometimes people, they go from one extreme to the other and they try to take on too much. And I think even with the toxins being released in the body, that can actually make you feel ill, and then they believe that it's not really helping. So with like the parasites, because I know like with the parasites, I've used like frequency device, the Rife kind of machines and stuff like that. Is that how they do it? Because I know there's tablets and there's all different things. Does it depend on what kind of parasite that is detected and how you'd recommend the clearing of that?
Yes. So the certification that we go through, it does break down all of the potential parasites that the test looks at and what healing protocol would be best to eradicate them if they do come up. So we're not taught on Rife machines, but we're taught on how to use natural supplements. And the client always has the option to go with antibiotics if they want to take the report to their physician. They can always go that route as well.
Just on that, I mean, not everybody knows, but when you take antibiotics, which I was shoved down my throat from a young age, they didn't even ask you what was wrong with you. It was antibiotic that destroys the gut.
It does, yeah. And we make them aware of that, but we always give it open because we're not doctors, we don't pretend to be, but yes, it does very much degrade the gut. There might be times where the risk versus the benefit does outweigh, but more likely than not, you are not only killing your good bacteria or bad bacteria, but you're killing the good. So with a natural way, it might take a little bit longer, but in the long run, you are really supporting your overall health. Yeah.
And is it something that you kind of recommend kind of yearly to be doing this because I mean, you can pick up anything fast,
Yes.
or is it more often that you'd want to be doing these?
It would really, yeah, absolutely. Great question. It would really be optimal to do it every year or at least every 2 years to just check in because we're always changing. Change is the only constant. So if you have the ability to do that, it would be very beneficial to just keep progressing because it's very difficult to know what is going on inside. And with your podcast and meditation and just having mindfulness be kind of present and upfront, we do have the capacity to really get to know ourselves. But I have found that the tests help us even more get to know ourselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And is the organization international or is it just American based?
It's all across the world. So there might be some practitioners that support clients in person. A lot of them do remote work. And so we can support anywhere in the world. Even if I'm based in Pennsylvania currently, I can help other people in the world.
And obviously the testing centers then would be the closest to that person, I presume, is it? Is that the way it would be?
So for example, the food sensitivity test, it has an investment for the US. There might be an additional shipping charge for Europe per se, or for Canada, but it does ship worldwide. As far as other tests, there might be some limitations, like maybe there might be a limitation if it's New York or different things. So there might be an alternative test that would be better suited to your location.
Okay. And I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of this one, but what happened in the last 3 years and something that was pushed on people, now they're kind of realizing the toxins that were in that and they're looking at ways of getting out. Is that something that it's able to kind of determine as well?
As far as determine, we can certainly look at maybe the repercussions of their current state of health now, if they did go down that route, and if there's any sort of mineral loss or any overgrowth of bacteria, if that really tanked their immune system, we can always, it's not a specific marker, but it plays a part in their health for sure. So that's something that we can look at if any sort of large concerns have come from it.
And like I've heard you speaking about a few different things, but one of them, which I've covered a little bit, was kind of makeup, because I kind of was saying, are you dying to look beautiful? And when I ask people, do they know what's actually in the ingredients that they put on their face? Because the reality is, if you can't eat it, why are you putting it on your skin? Just like sunscreen, that's not very healthy for you as well. But you might just touch on that, because I don't think there's that many are aware of that.
Yes. So our skin is our largest organ. So if we think about the water that's hitting our skin when we shower, where's our water coming from? Is it coming from the well, the city, and what's in that? Because we're absorbing everything. We're absorbing the soap, the shampoo and conditioner, the makeup. So again, this can be overwhelming to change all of these things all of a sudden. But it is one step at a time. We can never be perfect. And I know for me, I do have that perfectionistic type of mentality, but I've learned to be like, I'm not perfect. It's just the progress that makes the difference. So when you run out of a soap, what better soap can you look for? Or for your makeup, can you go with more of an organic brand? Or there's Beauty Counter is a brand out there that's great. 100% Pure is another one. Like there are many, many companies that now focus on natural health, on holistic health. And it's really cool to see, because there are a lot of options out there. But just look at the ingredients. Look at, does it have soy in it? Does it have gluten in it? Those are inflammatory foods that are not going to be good for your body. But also, speaking of the food sensitivity test, say there was and I'm bringing this up because this came up in a client, she was sensitive to oranges. In her shampoo, one ingredient was oranges. And that matters. That matters to be able to do your own detective work. Although you have a practitioner to help you, they're not living with you, and it's all about having more of an awareness of yourself. And so through these programs and through this process, you become so aware of yourself, of your environment, and then you're able to help your kids with that. And it's like a generational thing of, when you get better, you give space for other people to get better. And that's kind of how this whole thing unfolds. I hope I answered your question there.
No, absolutely. And like my youngest child, he's 9, and I used to take him to the water park, but unfortunately and he got sick somewhere, and I just stopped doing it, even though it's good fun, and they've even got some spas that are with healthy stuff, but you're going into the water. And like I even wrote to him and suggested different alternatives to instead of chlorine, but it just shows how bad it is that you go to the pool, because he eats very healthy, and he doesn't go to the doctor. He's like, the only time he gets sick is when he goes to the pool. So it just shows how dangerous these things are. And like, if your immune system, I think, is compromised, you don't kind of react as fast.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Your brain doesn't think as well. You can't focus. It's like you have more of this addictive. It's all in our habits. We have this addiction to looking at social media and scrolling. And it's like our brain isn't really supporting us in a way, because we're not supporting us. It's like we're in this vicious, like fuzzy life. And I don't know how else to describe it, but
what I say is, the wheel is turning, the hamster's dead, so.
Yeah, the wheel does keep turning. And I see so many people around where they just look empty. They just are not there. And it's not to say that, me or we have this huge awareness, but we have a little bit more awareness to others. And I think our responsibility is to help others become more aware. And it's just this process of just helping people become more aware, because if you don't know what you don't know, you cannot change anything.
Absolutely. And like with say the water at home, I mean, I use a filter system, and then I use a ozone generator. That No, and how I've noticed how good it is with the plants, because if you give the plants just tap water, or if you give it the exact same, so everything that I do, that is enough for you to kind of realize who. And I got a device before that actually tells you the particles in water, and I remember testing all these bottled waters and going, the water from the tap is better. And people don't realize that this, you see people going to the supermarket and they get 6 bottles of this, a gallon of this, and it's like, I think you have to stop passing your health to the doctor and take control yourself. And it's in small increments. But once you do, okay, let's get the water sorted because that's so important. And then just kind of build from there.
Absolutely. If I could give one piece of advice, it would be those bare essentials, like food being such a huge contributor. So can we choose organic? Can we choose proteins that come from a farmer that maybe we know and they treat them well? Can we, in the waters is huge as well. So if you can focus on just those two things, food and water to start, I think that's going to be so transformative. And then it just builds. So year after year, it's just getting a little bit better, a little bit better.
Like I get a lot of my stuff from a local farmer, and he was telling me that like the apples, they're sprayed 30 different chemicals, and it's like, and like, I mean, obviously I put stuff like that, you don't know. And even I know there's some trickery with the organic as well. They can label it and you can, but it's just a case of, I think if we do as much as we can in, like, say washing it with the soaps, things like that, shower gel. The one that I haven't, but I'm not sure if you is the actual for washing the clothes, because I've tried a few different kind of things. There was a liquid that I tried, and also there was like kind of balls that were doing it, but I never got the same result. So it's one that I haven't actually been comfortable going, yeah, this is actually makes my clothes clean, which at the end of the day, you don't want your clothes that they're not getting cleaned.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a lot of trial by error too. Yeah, just give it a try and be like, no, that did not work out well. Cause I know for probably a year or two ago, I made my own chapstick and deodorant. And my goodness, the deodorant did not work. I felt like I just had this like wet mess under my arms. So it's like, it's trial by error. You are using these natural ingredients, but maybe it just doesn't work out. So you have that experience now, and then you just keep moving forward.
Exactly. I use a crystal that you just kind of wet, and it's very good. And I stopped using aftershave as well because I heard they're so toxic. And I
Yeah.
feel it's like a lot of people did, dust themselves with the perfume or spray themselves after the gym or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think just question everything. Don't do it all in one week. Just say this week I'm going to check my toothpaste or whatever, because that's another one with the fluoride. I mean, but I think more
Yes.
people are become conscious of that one.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's so awesome that you've done all of these things too. And I know like it is everything that we put on our skin, and just asking ourselves the question, why are we doing that? We're doing that because dad used to spray himself with cologne. Um, and are we touching our skin? Are we putting it on our clothes rather than our skin? So that's a difference, but still the smell comes through. So I know for me, the perfume I use is actually just essential oils, a therapeutic grade essential oil. I might put a little bit on my wrist or a little bit behind my ear, and that's what it is. It's not this toxic perfume or this Bath and Body or Victoria's Secret perfume or lotion that I always used to use. It's not that anymore. And those impacts, you might feel like, oh, I don't really have a headache anymore. Was that from that perfume? But you're not really going to notice those things as much until you might get 60 or 70, because everything does matter. But think of this makeup that you put on, or anything that you put on your skin, or anything that you're breathing in. This is all our body we have to detox all of this stuff that hits us. And it's all the stress. It's all the stress. And we know that life can be very stressful with the debt that we have, with the relationships, with us needing to sit in an office. It's all stress. And so if we can eliminate a little bit of stress here, with the perfume, a little bit of stress there with the makeup. That's less stress that we are degrading our body with. So we have more vitality. We have a better digestive system. We can think better and smarter. We're not just being a little sheep in this following herd. We are leading our life better. And it does start with just those baby steps.
Absolutely. Just feeling how you react. And one that I've just learned last week is, like, I've got a lot of weeds in the garden, and you'd pick them and then it'd rain 2 days later and you're halfway through the week, you're going, oh my God, they're back again. But the neighbor has a well. So I never wanted to use any of these chemicals like Roundup, and I know how dangerous they are. But I found out that vinegar is good. And I had jars of vinegar from an old business, a food truck business. And I sprayed it, just testing it, and it killed. And then today I did it a lot. And within 2 or 3 hours, the whole lot are already dead. And it's like, that's not going to affect anything with things. So there is plenty. It's probably 10 times better than any of these toxins, because I would have used that years ago in Ireland, Roundup, before we knew the dangers of that. But they don't work immediately, and sometimes you have to spray them a few times. But simple things, just like vinegar, just put it into a sprayer and you just spray it on the weed, and you're not breaking your back, because sometimes people have back pain and stuff like that.
Yes, that's so great. And it's like, the more simpler we can make it, the better. That's so simple, and it's so cost effective too.
Yeah. And one of the other things that I've done is just a natural chemical for washing the floor, because I like the ground, and people don't realize the toxins in a lot of the products that they're cleaning the floors with, mopping the floor, and it still gets clean. I don't notice any difference, but yet I know that it's natural ingredients that's not going to affect and go into my body.
Absolutely. That's so great.
So I know that you do a bi-weekly Zoom meditation, and you've actually you've graciously sent me a meditation that I'll put out after this episode. But I just like to talk about your kind of what you cover in that.
Yes. So I actually created that towards the beginning of the year, and I've postponed it for now because I'd like to try in person, because I think just having that human connection is super valuable right now. So it is in person once a month. But how I host those is, there's a company called Listening to Smile, and you might want to write that down because it's an awesome company to check out. But they create music from astrology, whatever is coming from astrology, whatever the frequencies are coming in, because as we know, the waves change throughout every day, throughout the month. The moon has different phases, and it all impacts us as humans. And this might sound a little woo-woo to people, but it is impacting us. So the point is, how can we work with what's coming so we don't get burnt out, so we can have more of a harmonic life? And the music is transformative. Sometimes there's words involved with it. Sometimes it's just frequencies. For example, this month's album, every month he comes out with a new album according with the astrological signs. It is called Creation Field. And what's beautiful is that the intention is written out per song of why this was created. And it almost matches entirely what is going on in my life. It's very interesting how it comes up like that. But what I do to overlay that is I do use my voice and what's coming through for me. Any sort of creativeness is coming through for me, or anything I feel like that the people should hear. So I would typically record that YouTube, and I might actually incorporate somatic experiencing exercises, if you've ever heard of that. If not, we can dive into that. But it's basically bringing yourself back into your body, because a lot of times our mind our mind is disconnected from our body, from our digestive system, from our heart. And so these somatic exercises bring you back into your body to be able to feel, because sometimes we're disconnecting because we don't want to feel, because it feels painful. but it brings you back into your body and it creates more of a safe space in here. So I also incorporate those exercises in the meditation as well.
Okay. And just kind of finally, because I mean, like, I think that what you're doing, I highly recommend, because I think everybody should be doing that. They should be looking after their best interest. But it's the way the world has kind of gone. There's some people that are living week to week and they can't go away. They can't afford the test. They can't afford to get in. So what for some, the main things that we see kind of is insomnia and fatigue. So you might kind of, what things they could be just doing just to help them a little bit that would perhaps, kind of lift the level a bit.
Great question. So there's two things. One I'm going to say is remove gluten and soy. That's more of like a physical aspect for a food. That being gluten, we cannot digest. It causes a lot of inflammation, breaks down our gut. Soy is very like an estrogenic type of food, and so it can really mess with hormones. So I would just get those two out. Coming to the other side of what else you can do that's very cost effective is just deep and slow breathing. You probably heard that before. You're probably, oh my gosh, like I've heard that, but have you actually given it a try? Because every time that I remind myself to do that, I feel more calm and grounded. And it's like, wow, this is free. And yet, and I do it automatically. We're breathing all the time. However, we're probably only breathing into our throat. It's not deep at all. We might feel like we're bracing ourselves, or maybe we're holding our breath. So just like check in with how you're breathing, and then make an effort to slowly inhale through the nose all the way down into the belly and slowly bring it back out through the nose or through the mouth. And if you do that for 2 minutes every hour, twice a day, whatever, you will experience more calm. And I think that a lot of our emotional stuff and our physical stuff that comes up is because our nervous system is being stimulated in a way that shifts us into the sympathetic state, which is like we are running from something, maybe not physically, but we're running to not feel the pain. We're running to not have a conflict with a partner, whatever the case is. Even this light in my face is stimulating. And so over time, these artificial lights or anything, it's just shifting us into the sympathetic state more than we want to be in. With breath, we can shift back into the rest and digest. So there's less mineral loss in our system. There's less digestive issues. If you're in a rush, maybe in the morning, you got up and you're waking up, you're like, oh my gosh, I have to get a shower, I have to get ready for work, I have to eat breakfast. Oh man, I don't have time. I'm going to eat breakfast in the car. All of that, we're not worried about digesting our food while we're trying to drive and eat. And we're very much in the sympathetic. Then we have traffic to worry about, and the list goes on. Then we got to make the kids dinner at nighttime and take them to soccer. And if we can just take a pause, we have time to take a pause and just breathe, because everything's going to get done. If there's too much on your plate, what can you let go of? And I think if it's free to breathe, but we just have to put intention behind the breath. Yeah. So I think that I'll finish with that part.
No, that's brilliant. And just on the Wim Hof as well, because they were trying to, debunk him, and he was able to prove this, scientifically proven, the amount of things that they can heal just with breath work. So, I mean, I think just by mentioning that, how important it is for listen,
Yeah,
Falyn.
you would definitely notice, like, I know that my digestive system feels different when I deeply breathe, even before a meal, because we're more conscious that way. We're more aware of this potato or these eggs, like really nourishing us and building our muscles and helping our liver detox and etc. So it's just about taking that breath. It seems so simple. And I know I struggle with it sometimes too, because I'm like, I feel pulled in all these directions, and it's just like, wait a second, let's come back.
And
So
I
it happens
think
to everybody.
no, exactly. I think that's the
Yeah.
thing. Sometimes people think you'll get to utopia and everything will be hunky. Like we're getting thrown curveballs every day. But when you start making these little changes, whether it's the water and just then you become conscious of what's not serving you, what's actually making you tired, and you realize without having to go to a doctor or anything, this is the problem. And then obviously, they can actually go to yourself or your fellow practitioners and do a real detailed, we'll call it the MOC for the car, the body. I think a yearly test. Why not? If your body is the most important thing, it's not your car, it's not your house, it's your body. And we should all be doing it.
Yes, we are our biggest asset for sure.
Listen, thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. You might let people know how they can get in contact with you.
Absolutely. I enjoyed this as well. You can get in contact with me via email. It is discover@falynmorningstar.com. We can set up a free 30-minute call just to have a conversation. Maybe I can support you in some fashion. You can also find me on Instagram, which is @FalynHunterMorningstar. So any of those avenues would be awesome.
Okay, perfect. And I'll make sure I put the links both in the audio and the video. And those that are maybe just listening to the audio, I suggest on Spotify, we're on video, YouTube and BitChute. You might just look, because sometimes people are promoting health. Falyn is actually glowing and you can see that she's very healthy. And I think it's better to learn from somebody that you aspire to be and have the energy than some of these people that are trying to promote something and it's just a money driven thing and it's not, they don't even look healthy. So, you're yeah. And you've come through the journey yourself, from the start of what we said, you've healed yourself. And I think that's the best way. When you know something works, you can actually take people on the journey a lot better.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So that's the meditation podcast. You'll find all our episodes on the meditationpodcast.org. As mentioned, we're on BitChute and YouTube. Be sure to give us a thumbs up, 5-star rating, share with your friends. Really helps. Until next week, take care.
So I hope you enjoyed this week's podcast. You'll find everything about me on bio.link/podcaster with all my podcasts, and you'll find it you see in the QR code in the graphic that's shown. I'd like again to thank my sponsors. So if you or someone you know struggling with anxiety and want to know how to be 100% anxiety free in 6 weeks without therapy or drugs, Daniel Packard's Anxiety Solution Program company offers a 6-week system that permanently solves anxiety at an astounding 90% success rate. People who join the program only pay at the end once they have clear, measurable results. If you're interested in learning more, go to permanentanxietysolutions.com where you can book a free consultation with Daniel. Do you fight blood pressure and or want to get off the meds? Doctors are amazed at what Zona Plus can do. You can get a $50 discount with my code ROY, zona.com/discount/ROY. And you'll see it in the QR code as well as Daniel's QR code. Quality manufacturer of metal products for telecommunication and workshop equipment and other metal materials. You see the brochure there in the QR code, and let me know if you would like a quotation, shipped internationally at very competitive price. I'd like to thank all my sponsors and also all my listeners. Be sure to give me a thumbs up, 5-star rating, share with your friends, really helps. And I also have a video on how to give a 5-star rating because a lot of people have wrote to me asking me that they don't know how to do that. Until next week, take care.